Hey, what's up, man? I literally just recorded this. It's about a 10-minute video, um, and my mic was muted. I'm an idiot. So let's do this again. Basically, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk you through this little training guide. The reason I'm going to do this is because I completely forgot to record our Skype session. Usually what I would do is instead of sending you this video that I'm making right now, I would be sending you our recorded Skype session with this to remind you about the things that we talked about. Since I forgot to do that, I'm going to go over each one of these training aspects so that you just kind of get reminded about what we spoke about. Um, Now for this, like I said, it's a training guide. Now, I could make something like a training program where I tell you, all right, every time you go out to train, I want you to do this, 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 and this. You're going to get this and this and this and this, right? I could do that, but my goal is to actually give you things that you can work on, and the things that I gave you, it's similar to that. You can go out there and you can do all of these things. You're going to be getting more power, like we worked where you talked about. You're going to be faster rotations on your flips and spins. But my goal here is to give you things that you can kind of implement into your everyday training. Because for me, with training programs, like I'll get started with them, and I just kind of get bored, or I get tired out with them, and I stop doing them after a while. For these, I'm going to give you things that you can kind of implement into your everyday training life, so that when you're training, you can just be like, oh, hey, like, let me try this because it's an extra challenge, and it's going to be getting you stronger and pushing you further towards your goals. So, let's get right into it. First off, we have gym training. So basically, once a week, you said you try to go to the gym. Every time you go to the gym, I want you to do these things. We have about, what do we have? Four things right here. We have standing front tuck, standing back tuck, standing full, and Rudy's off a low ledge onto mats with a small run up. Every single gym session, I want you to do at least 5 standing fronts, standing backs, and standing fulls, no matter what. Your main goal here is to work on that fast, snappy spin, getting as much height as you can with your jump, and getting as much super instantaneous rotation as you can for your tuck and rotation. So for standing fronts, it's important to note that you're probably not going to get any extra height. So don't worry about if you're falling a little bit in your standing front tucks. The goal here is to actually keep your chest in one spot, rotate around your chest, and land just a little bit lower than you were when you started. If you can do that, you'll have amazing front tucks, and you can probably do running like split takeoff front 1.5 rollouts on flat ground. I almost guarantee you could do that if you have that good rotation. But your goal is not to get height here, it's just to focus on that really fast rotation. Now for the back tucks, your goal is to add extra height, and that's just because the way human anatomy works, it's easier for us to jump and flip backwards than it is for us to go forward. So for our back tucks, the goal is to jump as high as you can, get your chest as high as you possibly can, then snap that rotation in so you're rotating around your chest and opening and falling to the ground. And what I want you to do for each one of these standing flips, I want you to not just drill it, because a lot of people, they'll kind of get in this drilling habit, and they'll be like, all right, I'm doing the flip, I'm doing the flip, I'm doing the flip. Okay, I'm done with 5, I'm done. I don't want you to approach it like that, because if you approach it like that, you're not going to get much out of it. I want you to approach every single one with thought going into it. Think, okay, I'm here, I'm about to do the fastest, most powerful standing flip I've ever done in my life, and I want you to do that for every single one of your flips, especially when you're drilling these standing ones in the gym. And if you're doing that, you're gonna see so much progress from that, I promise. So we have standing front, standing back. For the standing full, if you can't do a standing full on flat ground, then I want you to just put like those little foldable mats that are about a foot, and drill your fulls off of that. It looks like you could probably do standing fulls pretty easily, but if you can't, take it up just a little bit, or throw a mat down. The mat's going to absorb some of your jump, which is completely fine because we're actually training. We want things to be harder for ourselves so that when we take it outside and onto that hard ground, it'll actually be easier to get extra height for that standing full if we're not on the mat, because the mat won't be taking away our jump, right? So we want the mat to take away our jump to make it harder, because if we can land it in a harder situation, then we can land it in the easier situation every single time. That might have been a little confusing. I apologize. All I'm saying is if you can't do it off of something or do it standing on a mat. That's all I'm saying. If you can do it already, then what I want you working on is instead of landing boom, 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 2 feet at a time, I want you trying to land 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, just like that. Because if you can do that, then you'll be very close to standing back full swing corks, which are very difficult. It'll mean that you have great rotation and great height on every single one of your fulls. So now Rudy's off of the low ledge onto mats with a small run up. So a Rudy is not quite as easy unless you're doing a double A twist, but a Rudy's different than a double A twist. Double A twist, you take off of 1 foot and you Webster into that. Doing that from standing, you can work on. That would be great. But I noticed you were really practicing Rudy's in your runs. So just add maybe 2 to 3 steps and then do your Rudy off of a small ledge, and really focus on trying to get the fastest rotation as you can, like we already talked about. Squeeze those legs together, make sure your arms are as close to your chest as you can, and just torque that rotation. Now moving on to the outdoor training. This is the kind of stuff that you're going to be more implementing into your daily training, right? Pretty much anytime you're training, you can add these things to make it more challenging and more fun, and you'll be getting more power out of it. So the first one, cut 1 to 3 steps of run up out of all moves. So if you're doing a running precision, take away 1 step, 2 steps, or 3 steps. Make your running momentum less so that you have to use your muscle strength more, and that's going to be building your power, right? Rely less on that momentum and more on the power of your legs and the strength of your legs. Same thing for pretty much any flip. Like if you're going to do a front flip gap or something, see if you can do that same front flip gap with 3 steps instead of 6 steps. It's going to be harder, but you're going to be building more power. Now standing box jumps, I want you to do these everywhere you can. Super important. If you're walking down the street and you see something that you can jump on top of it all the time. Just train your jumping muscles as much as you possibly can. This is what I do. If I'm walking down the street, even if I see like a curb, right? Obviously, if I'm standing here on the ground and I could jump onto something this high, boop, and just barely make it on top, let me bring it down here, joop, just barely make it on top, then when I'm standing on the street and there's something this high, I'm not going to jump like that. I'm going to jump like this. I'm going to go as high as I can every single time to really work on that strength. This one, again, focus on tight tucks. We have this kind of peppered throughout here. No matter what you're working on, really focus on those tight tucks. Super important. We have it again down here, no lazy tucks, no lazy flips. And we have it up here working on these. That's going to be drilling those tight tucks. So that's one of the most important things I want for you to work on. We have continuous jumps. These are very simple. I'm going to have an extra little video kind of showing you what to do, but it's, again, very simple. Just jump, 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 jump. Link 10 jumps in a row, at least 10 jumps in a row, 10 plyos. And I want you to do this at least once a week. So it doesn't matter when you do it, just once a week, go out, do a bunch of jumps in a row. It's going to be building your leg muscles. It's going to be great. It's also going to be building your your fast twitch muscles, because you're landing and jumping, landing, jumping, landing, jumping, which is really important for doing flips. Parkours is probably the most confusing thing in the world, if you've never heard it before, that is. So parkour is basically a training method. David Bell used to do it, kind of got passed down to me through the gym that I used to work at. All it is a circular course. You have to do 10 times in a row without stopping. This last little bit I added just for you. I want you to do it with at least 1 flip. I'm going to have another video attached to this. It's going to explain exactly what a parkour course is, how you do it, and it'll show you a quick little demonstration and tell you a couple more things that you can add on to make it a little bit harder. Even though I promise, even if you do a short little baby parkour course, you will be exhausted by the end of it. It is awesome. For you, I want you to add at least 1 flip, just to be working on those flips even while you're tired, because that's a very important aspect. Make sure that you do the flip over something soft, and don't do a dangerous flip, especially if you're outside, because chances are by your 7th, 8th, 9th lap, you're going to be messing up the flip. So just be aware of that. Don't injure yourself while doing these. For you, I want you to do at least 1 parkour circuit every single training session. So every time you train, I suggest doing it at the end of your training. Get a great training day in, and then just at the end, be like, all right, let me smash out this parkour course, set up a little circular course, and hit it like nonstop, 10 times in a row. You're going to be exhausted afterwards, but you're going to feel like a champion. Now, lastly, the things to watch out for. We already went over a lot of these things. First off, finish the rotation on your spin moves before you land. That I really saw come into play on your Rudies. If you watch super high level trickers, they will actually still be spinning when their feet hit the ground. And there's a difference between spinning until your feet hit the ground and stopping your rotation in order to land your feet on the ground. I want you to make sure you're not doing the second one, which is stopping your rotation to let your feet land. You have two options. The first one is dangerous, and this is what trickers do. I don't recommend it, but you can do it. It's up to you. You can look into it, and you can practice it. If you like it, stick with it. And that is continually spinning, pulling that spin until your feet hit the ground. You'll see people who are working on their triple fulls or their quad corks, they'll just continually spin until their feet hit the ground. They never stop. The second one, this is much safer, and this is what I recommend you do, is completely finishing your spin before you land on the ground. Make sure that you're not going spin, 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 and then the ground's kind of coming up, and you don't want to land low, so you stop spinning and pull your feet to the ground, even if you don't complete your flip. When you're on mats, I definitely want you finishing that spin, then opening up for your landing. For your corks, make sure you don't start that rotation too early. Make sure that you're holding your shoulders, going up until your leg swings as high as it can to get you that jump height, and can start to pull in to give you a rotation. You want to pull your shoulders in for the rotation about the same time your leg pulls in to give you the rotation. If you do those two things together, you're going to get much faster rotation, and you're going to wait for your height to get there too. No lazy tucks, no lazy flips. Be sure to add power and tight tucks to everything. We've already drilled this into your head enough, but one more time, do it. On spins, make sure your arms are touching your chest and legs are together for maximum spin. Super important. We already saw that in your double full. Your arms were right up against your chest. That's great. That's perfect. You're actually right about here. Arms were touching your chest. That's where you want to be. But those legs were just a little bit split, right? If we can pull those legs together and straighten them out, you're going to feel so much more torque in your spin. So make sure you're practicing that. Don't pull down from your set while doing spin moves. Make sure that you're pulling up. You're doing your set as you're starting your rotation instead of doing your set and then pulling down for your rotation. You'll see some like divers do this type of motion, and some like Olympic trampolinists do this type of rotation. That's because they either are dropping from an insanely high height, or they're using a very bouncy thing to give them this artificial height. They're not using their strength, they're using something else, whether that's a big fall or a bouncy obstacle. So they can get away with something like this. For us, we need to get maximum height, so we need to be pulling up while we're rotating. If we're going here, then here, that's going to be pulling us into the ground. I know we already talked about that in the live session. Hopefully you remember. Don't rely too much on your momentum. Use your muscle power instead of speed. That's something just to take into account every time you're training, no matter what you're doing. Try to cut down that run up. Just remember that if you're using momentum, then you're not gaining power. You are gaining a lot of other things, like you're learning how to use that momentum, how to control that momentum, which is great. That's fantastic. I'm not saying don't ever use momentum, but I am saying if you're training specifically to gain power, cut that momentum out so that your muscles have to do more of the work and not just your speed. Alright, man, hopefully that all makes sense. Again, this is something, this right here, me talking to you about this part of the plan, something just for you, because I completely forgot to add in the Skype call, or save the Skype call. But thank you so much for volunteering to do this. I really appreciate it. Seriously, it's like invaluable lessons for me that are coming from this. I'm learning a lot on what I need to do, and the next one's going to be exponentially better because you helped me out with this one. With that being said, if you were looking for something more in-depth right here for this training guide, if you wanted more information or a stricter training guide, or if there was anything that you didn't like about this, please tell me. I will not be offended. I'm looking for as much feedback as I can get. So if you're like, wow, this was like such stupid, like, why is he telling me all this? Obviously, I know to do these things while I'm training. If you feel that way, tell me. I would love to know. Or in the same vein, if some of this was like, oh, that's a really good idea, but I never thought about it, let me know. If the whole thing was just kind of mediocre, you learned a little bit, but it wasn't that great, let me know. I would love all that feedback. Again, thank you so much. Hopefully we'll train together soon. I'm going to get all this stuff sent to you by tonight, and tonight is the night or the day that we spoke earlier, so hopefully you'll see this by the morning, man. Take it easy.
Alright, so a parkour course is actually very simple, but a really effective way to build stamina, build strength, and be very comfortable with doing moves while tired. That's kind of the whole idea, is that we can structure these parkour courses any way that we want. We can build strength, we can build explosive power, we can build speed, or we can practice our techniques that maybe we're a little bit afraid of, or we're just uncomfortable doing while we're tired. Now, obviously, if you're outside, be very careful, but here's how it works. All we do is we pick a circular course, something that the beginning is exactly the same as the end. So we go in a big loop, and we have to do this course 10 times without stopping. What I like to do is I like to add in at least one flip, and I like to have at least one section where I'm moving quickly. So a lot of the times you'll kind of get into this habit of jogging through it, but what I want you to try is adding one section where you have to move explosively, even when you're tired, and one section where you have to do at least one flip. I'm gonna have one flip and one spot where I move quickly. It's not gonna be super fast, but it will be quickly. I'm also only gonna do this about 2 to maybe 3 laps to give you an idea, but generally you want to do it 10 times without stopping. Let's go.